All right, let's dive right into this explainer. And honestly, darlings, you are going to want to slip into something a little more comfortable for this one. Welcome back. Today, we're breaking down the utterly chaotic narrative and the deep psychological labyrinth of indie icon Gregg Araki's highly provocative return to the screen, I Want Your Sex. So imagine walking into a totally mundane entry-level job interview. You're desperate to just scrape together rent money, right? And then the absolute icon sitting across from you slides over a strict NDA and essentially demands that you become her personal, submissive sexual muse. Wild, right? We start with this truly gripping cold open, where our protagonist Elliot, played with this brilliant, sweaty boy next door anxiety by Cooper Hoffman, is being grilled in a tense interrogation room. And who is grilling him? The totally unexpected, yet somehow brilliantly cast duo of Johnny Knoxville and Margaret Cho. Let's strip this story all the way back to the beginning. The whole film structures itself as this giant, tantalizing flashback. So Elliot is your textbook aimless graduate. He is totally desperate for cash just to appease his increasingly frustrated roommate, Apple. So what's a boy to do? Well, he lands a job at the high-end, unapologetically sex-forward Los Angeles art studio of the infamous artist Erika Tracy. At first, this whole gig just feels like an absurd art world satire. You've got Elliot and his quirky coworker Zap, played by Mason Gooding, literally spending their days chewing ridiculous amounts of bubblegum to construct a giant gum vagina for a gallery show. I mean, you can just picture the outrageous neon penis piñatas hanging in the background of this place, right? It's so campy. But then Erika Tracy, played with this fierce, terrifying magnetism and wrapped in pure dominatrix fashion by Olivia Wilde, she radically shifts the dynamic on day one. She doesn't just want an assistant. She wants a living canvas. And the trap just snaps completely shut the moment his pen hits that life-altering NDA. Chapter 1, Gen Z Intimacy Anxieties, the Generational Shift. Let's explore exactly why a guy like Elliot so eagerly throws his totally inexperienced self into this absolute HR nightmare. This just brilliantly illustrates the stark contrast in his life right now. In one corner, we have Elliot's incredibly dried-up, totally vanilla relationship with his girlfriend Minerva. And we just have to call out Charli XCX's brief but brutally hilarious cameo here. She plays Minerva as this hyper-focused medical student who is, frankly, a total cold fish. Her world is all dull fluorescent lights, heavy medical textbooks, and zero passion. But on the other side, we have the terrifyingly liberating, neon-soaked escape offered by Erika, a place where sex is an absolute boundary-pushing playground. The directors stake in some genuinely brilliant cultural commentary here, for sure. They're directly interrogating the modern dating landscape, really highlighting how so many modern Gen Z straight men are just incredibly anxious, repressed, and outright terrified of real physical intimacy. So Elliot steps blindly into the psychological meat grinder, eagerly convincing himself it's just, a really hands-on education. Moving on to Chapter 2, The Art of Manipulation, Deconstructing the Power Play. We really need to get into the absolute core of the film's narrative engine, which is this intensely kinky and highly toxic BDSM workplace dynamic between the two of them. Erika lays down a brutal golden rule right up front. She says, sex is everything and nothing. Love is strictly out of the equation. She openly mocks any form of romantic vulnerability, treating Elliot purely as this raw, writhing material for her feminist pop art. It is essentially a 9.5 weeks time card joke. Clock in, strip down, get completely tied up and dominated, and clock out. And hey, speaking of clocking in, darlings, if you are as completely captivated by this breakdown of dangerous, boundary-pushing erotic dynamics as I am, this is my playful little reminder to hit that subscribe button for Plot Hole Unrated. You definitely don't want to miss what we unravel next, do you? I didn't think so. Getting back to the beautiful torment, Elliot actually becomes totally addicted to the aggressive physical submission, and it ends up giving him this strange, unearned confidence in his everyday life out in the real world. But the climax of this toxic power play really peaks when Erika pushes things one step way too far. She weaponizes intimacy, dragging Elliot's sweet, unsuspecting roommate Apple, played by Chase Sui Wonders, into a deeply uncomfortable, highly chaotic, and entirely failed threesome. It perfectly exposes Erika's absolute sociopathy and her total disregard for anyone else's emotional boundaries. So before we transition into the film's sudden, dark turn, you really have to ask yourself, what are Erika's true motives here?
As Elliot's submissive little world begins to fracture, is she a misunderstood artistic genius pushing the boundaries of human connection, or just a cold-blooded criminal mastermind playing with her food? Chapter 3. The Obsession and Descent. The thriller takes over. This is exactly where the bright, colorful, campy art satire completely evaporates, leaving us alone in the dark with a highly realistic, terrifying portrait of psychological destruction. Just watch Elliot's rapid, messy unraveling over these timeline jumps. As the weeks pass since he signed that NDA on day 1, he breaks the #1 rule of playing with a sociopath. He catches obsessive, clinging feelings. He tries to force a safe, vanilla romance onto a woman who is fundamentally incapable of it. And the tension just completely snaps when Erika introduces an enigmatic European friend to further gaslight him. It pushes his fragile, addicted psyche to the absolute breaking point. And just like that, boom, the film violently crashes into thriller territory. The whole power balance we've been exploring is completely shattered by a messy, bloody murder investigation. Gregg Araki deliberately disorients us here, spinning the audience through all these chaotic fake-out endings in dizzying narrative loops that honestly leave you breathless and entirely unsure of who is really in control of the story. Finally, Chapter 4, A Cynical Puzzle, the Final Critique. Returning to the harsh, unforgiving lights of the present-day interrogation room, we discover that Erika Tracy has completely vanished into thin air, leaving Elliot and us with a wild, deliciously cynical puzzle. So we're left staring at some wild, unresolved threads. Did our sweet, anxious Elliot finally snap under all that psychological torture and commit the ultimate act of bloody revenge? Or did Erika, the grand manipulator, orchestrate the most elaborate, cold-blooded performance art piece just to escape her own chaotic life? Listen, while the crime thriller shift in the third act is undeniably a bit messy, the film still remains a wickedly sharp, fearless critique of intimacy and control. Which leads me to leave you with this provocative little thought. Are our modern relationships becoming fundamentally transactional? I Want Your Sex absolutely forces us to look at the deep anxieties surrounding modern intimacy. And honestly, it makes me wonder, is modern cinema getting entirely too sexless these days? I think we could all use a little more danger, a little more heat on the screen. Reflect on what we've unpacked in this explainer today, darlings. Let me know your dirtiest thoughts in the comments. Make sure you hit that like button and definitely subscribe for more intimate deep dives. Until next time, stay curious.